In the UK, we have watched in horror as women's rights in the USA have rolled back decades with new restrictive anti-abortion legislation. Already, we've seen the deaths of women like Amber Thurman, Candy Miller, and Neva Crane. Even when there are exceptions for cases where the mother's life is in danger, doctors are slowed by fear of losing their medical license or being accused of murder. It's our position here at Turn Left that a woman, or any other person for that matter, should always have a right to free themselves of a medical violation of their bodily autonomy. There's no exception to that rule. Even if you might have to follow procedures to claim that right, certain procedures might be placed in, that's absolutely fine. Barriers, though, should never be put in the way of you reclaiming your bodily autonomy, and people should help you to reclaim your bodily autonomy. That's why we were so alarmed by news that Nigel Farage wants to have a debate about rolling back abortion rights here in the UK. As the Byline Times reported, Nigel Farage is working with an extreme religious anti abortion campaign group against a supposed tsunami of censorship in Britain as he backs calls for a debate on restricting abortion rights in the UK. Farage was quoted in a statement from the Alliance Defending Freedom, that's ADF, which campaigns to outlaw abortion, as saying that the crackdown on free expression within the UK is becoming very sinister. Our police and government now withhold vital public information, and we get censored simply for demanding the truth. I will continue to fight this. Farage's statement comes as he suggests that MPs should debate rolling back the 24-week abortion limit. This is a quote, is 24 weeks right for abortion given that we now save babies at 22, he told a press conference in London on Thursday. That to me would be worthy of a debate in Parliament. We hope it goes without saying that Nigel Farage is talking out of his backside. The age of fetal viability, according to the NHS, which is the age at which a fetus has a more than 50% chance of surviving outside of the womb, is still 24 weeks. NHS perinatal guidelines say that babies born between 22 and 24 weeks, so the period that he's talking about, are high risk. And as such, for fetuses/babies at extremely high risk, palliative, comfort focused care would be the usual management. For fetuses/babies at high risk of poor outcome, the decision to provide either active, that's survival focused management, or palliative care should be based primarily on the wishes of the parents. In other words, the decision of the parents is the focus, since the chances of survival outside the womb are so low. Far from being an inconsistency, the current guidelines are perfectly in line with allowing abortion up to 24 weeks. 94% of abortions are performed at or before the first 12 weeks, according to YouGov data from 2022. And to be clear, the Alliance Defending Freedom doesn't believe that abortion for women is okay at 21 weeks, but not at 22 weeks, right? The ADF wants to ban abortion altogether, and Nigel Farage is attempting to find a crack in the armour of women's rights in the UK that they can exploit. It's not about fetal viability. It's about putting women's right to choose back on the table as an issue so that they can start to take that right away. The reason that Conservatives want to restrict abortion is that they want to restrict women's political and social autonomy by pushing them back into the home. Because think about it from the perspective of your average family. If a woman gets pregnant and isn't allowed an abortion, she's forced to take time off work. And then it makes financial sense for her to have time off whenever childcare is needed. It subtly pushes women back into the home. And not only does it push us closer to a reversion to these 1950s dynamics, but it also creates more poverty and desperation, which the rich can exploit to get good, compliant, hungry workers. It's a world we can't go back to, and one we're trying to avoid going back to. So the big question now, Maj, is do you think that the anti-abortion crowd in the UK has legs? What do you think is the best way to fight them and make sure that we protect women's rights going forward?
I don't really think it has legs. Not at the moment. I think it's not a mainstream issue. Most people in the UK focus more on the NHS, the economy, and immigration. Unfortunately, for the last one, so I just don't think it's going to get legs. A lot of the I think there are a lot of female hosts on news organisations, or they'll push back on it quite aggressively as well. So I don't think it's going to get much traction in like Sky, BBC, that kind of stuff, especially Sky. I think. So I don't think it would. America, I think, thing is because they're much more religious in the South, and their politics is more embedded in religion. I think that's where the danger is. especially because the way their court system is built as well, and the way their kind of legislation is. Like you would have to change it in Parliament. It'd have to go through the Lords. It'd be quite difficult. So I think for now, at least, this is the next kind of stage of the culture. Because Farage doesn't want to talk about Brexit anymore. He doesn't want to talk about certain other topics, so he's moved on to abortion. And the other thing is, it pushes the kind of Overton window in the US as well. I think if they can point at us and say, "Oh, look, they're also looking to limit abortion. Maybe we should keep doing it as well." So I think that's the main reason they're doing it. It's being funded by a big organization as well. I think they're putting a lot of money into Farage to push this kind of agenda. So it's one of them things that I don't think it's got a lot of legs at the moment. You never know with this kind of stuff. But I think you're right in terms of it's there to control women, especially when we don't have adequate childcare in this country. Along with the other thing is you would need to increase birth rate. There's a reason why birth rate is falling, and it's for a multitude of reasons. And so getting rid of abortion, like it just makes things more dangerous. And we've gone through it in different countries. It just makes abortions more accessible to rich people, and it just makes it more dangerous because if women don't want to have a child, that they'll find a way of trying to get rid of it. So it's a really stupid idea, but this is what he has now. What else is he gonna run on? That's the thing, like, what else is he gonna push? And it's just easy money, like, these groups will fund him, and that's it, like, he gets easy paychecks and stuff he can rant about on GB News and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. What's the phrase? You can never abolish abortion. You can only abolish safe abortions. Right.
Yeah.
That's the phrase that comes to mind. And of course, you've got the case of like Savita Halapanava, the woman who died in 2000 and I want to say it was 2012. It might be 2013. In Ireland because her pregnancy. There was a heartbeat law in Ireland at the time. It eventually led to Ireland repealing that heartbeat law. Um, and I think it was the Eighth Amendment. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But Savita's death was so significant because she went to the doctor before her pregnancy went septic and asked for an abortion. And the doctors delayed because, of course, they're worried about their medical license. They're worried about being charged with something akin to murder. They have every reason to hold back and to be nervous. And in Savita's case, like that cost her life. There's a real uh, very real human cost to this stuff. And yeah, I'm really glad you bring it up. Um, I guess the thing to consider though is I do take your point about how it's a lot of the media has no time for this stuff at the moment, right? A lot of our mainstream media, the BBC, Sky News. However, I did see that GB News are unfortunately outpacing Sky News in some areas of broadcast right now. Do you think that could be a worry? Because of course, Nigel Farage still have a show on? Or am I misremembering
I
on?
don't think he does anymore.
Okay,
I think
yes,
he's been replaced by Mog, I think, because there's parliamentary rules around having shows, I think there's weird stuff around it. Not that they care anyways, but I think there are certain rules against that kind of stuff. I think, yeah, with GB News getting more traction, I think it'll be with certain demographics, be like older people. And I think I think if they go anti-abortion, I think that'll turn off younger voters. I think, especially women. But GB News, and sorry, Reform is doing well with I think younger males. I think white males predominantly. Now I think they're kind of picking up that demographic a lot more, which is very concerning.
mhm,
That is the most concerning thing. But I think for now, at least, I think things like abortion rights are relatively safe. I think in the next election, Reform will probably do a lot better and kind of pick away at Labour's heartlands a bit more, and that's where I think the concern would set in. But I don't think it will be one of their flagship policies. I think their main policies will be their kind of fix for the NHS, which wouldn't work. Some stuff on the economy, which definitely won't work, and just an immigration policy that's be like one in, one out, or something like that. So I don't think they'll push abortion in their top five policies.
it would lose them popularity. I think a bit like the net zero stuff. It's not a very popular thing to be like against net zero at the moment. They're trying because, of course, they have a certain line to push because they get they allegedly get paid by certain people, maybe possibly from the oil industry. Who knows? Just possibly. I'm just saying it's a possibility to push a certain agenda about net zero and whether decarbonization is a good thing or a bad thing. But of course, they can only push that so far because public opinion is so, from what I've seen, firmly on the side of environmentalists. And
It depends on like where voters are based and like certain types of voters as well. I think they'll keep making the argument that our bills are going up because of net zero, and I think they managed to make that argument okay most of the time. So, because I think there are green levies and stuff like that. So I think it's not the hardest argument in the world to make, although they're not the smartest people in the world. So who knows? But I think when it comes to net zero, it makes sense as a policy. It's just about getting there. That's the problem. But I think they have so many different cultural aspects to fight. I don't think abortion will be one of their main policies, in my opinion, for now. For now, at least. Especially when like it's just such a dumb idea, like on so many levels. Like you're gonna force people to have kids they don't want to have. Childcare in this country is non-existent. You can barely get a flat, forget a house. And you're just gonna have kids that are gonna be hated by their parents. I think, like, just it's gonna be a disaster.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.